Hello, welcome to another episode on John the PM YouTube channel, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. For today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the PMP application on that area. It shouldn't be a real big secret or anything of that nature that we provide the PMP training. It's espoused by PMI, to a variety of individuals or organizations, all around the world, things of that nature, both in person and virtual. So clearly, we have to help people. Actually, we don't have to help people. We choose to help people to do their PMP application, in those areas. Now, I will say this that before, I allow a student to actually enroll in one of our courses, we sit down and review with them on an individual basis just to make sure that they have the qualifications in order to sit for the PMP exam. The last thing that we actually want to do is just say, oh, go and do it, go and do it. Anything counts, and, so forth. And then when you get into the material, you find that it's way off point for you. There's not a good match, or when you start doing your application, there's a problem or a concern of that nature. So our process actually begins at the very beginning. On those areas, we have to make sure that, or have a good feeling that everything is going to land in the appropriate spot. One, because we want you to pass the PMP exam. I mean, clearly need to do that. That's what we're kind of measured off of quantitatively, in that regards. But qualitative, and this is a little bit more from the heart. Just want you to be successful. Earning the PMP, professional. They are a professional. That, by definition, means that you can handle just about any project that's given to you or provider that you run into on those areas. And we want to make sure that you're going to be wildly successful, on those pieces. And boy, do I have some great stories. And I'll share with them, in other episodes about, some of the students who have done extremely well, in their organizations and in their own businesses and line of efforts and things of that nature on that side. So we really do want you to do extremely well, on those pieces. Okay, how to begin this? Let's talk about the actual tactical piece, meaning the application, in and of itself, the actual pen to paper type issue, and then kind of talk a little bit about the philosophy, on those areas. At its simplest form, what'll happen is that you'll go to pmi.org and you'll surf over to where it says PMP. I mean, they have it all over the website, and you just drill down to it, go to certifications, and then PMP. And there'll be like a little button there where you just click on it and it says, here's your, apply for the PMP and start your online application, on that side. An online application, it's just like any other online application that you've gone through. You type in it real time and things of that nature, your name and your relevant information. Then you hit the submit button, on those pieces, on those areas. Now, within our classes, what we do is that we actually have a workbook that we provide to our students, and we guide them through it, in those areas to help set it up for them. Why? One, it just makes actually the actual like pen to paper piece of doing the application a little bit easier because then you're just copying and pasting into the online application. The second reason why I prefer that people did it the way that we've become accustomed to is that it becomes a great resource document for your transition resume, or even internally, kind of put into focus what you have done, on those areas. So that is a good tool. And then three, I just happen to see it as a study tool, and it is an awesome study tool. Why? Because relative to the test, a lot of it's scenario based, and they kind of assume that you've had these experiences, okay? Because most project managers kind of have the same type of experiences if you've been in the game long enough on those areas. Now, you may say, well, that doesn't apply. Well, I mean, but you did say that you had these experiences because you put it on your document. Okay. So, they're kind of hand off. Now, you're not going to have 100%. No, nobody's saying that, but 70, 80%, relative to the test and things of that nature, on those pieces. You should be, somewhat familiar with just because you have lived it, on that side. All right. So there's three parts of the application. The first one is going to be your education. Basically, at the end of the day, it comes down to, do you have a 4-year degree? Yes or no? Okay. You do need to go and list down, the school that you attended, the years, field of study, things of that nature on those areas. If you have a doctorate, master's, or more than one degree, that's awesome. On a personal basis, one of my family's core value is a college and things of that nature. So no harm, no foul, on those pieces. However, you're not going to get any extra points, for having extra degrees and things of that nature. So it's just you. It's just literally, it's very binary. 4-year degree, yes or no. If you don't have a 4-year degree, you do need a GED or equivalent, in that side. If you went to an at-risk high school, no issues, no concerns. If you went to an international baccalaureate program, no issues and or concerns. It is just simply, GED or equivalent, in that regards. Now, if you do not have a 4-year degree, you are going to need 5 years. That means 60 months of project management experience, and we'll talk about that here momentarily. If you do have a 4-year degree, then you'll need 3 years or 36 months. Okay. The second part of the PMP application is going to be your project management education, on those pieces. I would highly recommend doing a certification program, by an authorized training partner. We are an authorized training partner. We've actually been doing this for well over a decade. We started off in the original program of the Registered Educational Provider. You may want to ask, your providers, how long have they been doing this? On those areas. And we are certified to operate by State Council of Higher Education for Virginia, on those pieces. So we are a career technical school in that regards. Either way, we focus in on project managers on that side. So do check in with your, training provider, making sure that they, have the requisites and things of that nature. Authorized training partner, ATPs, authorized training partners. They have been verified, validated by PMI to provide good courseware, good course of instruction. PMI has a program there to ensure the quality of the status, and they accept professional development units, from ATPs. Having said that, technically you can use, other project management education and things of that nature. But again, I'm not trying to, like scare people off or anything of that nature. But one of the problems of using like other courses is because it wasn't necessarily tied back to the exam content outline. And that can give students, candidates, some trials and tribulations, at least unnecessary trials and tribulations with regards to that. All right, so that's the second item. First item is going to be, degree, yes or no, 4-year degree, yes or no. Second one, at least 35 hours of project management education. I did forget to mention you could also have the CAPM, just as a matter of fact, Certified Associates in Project Management. I have another episode on a CAPM program, a little bit later, on that side. Third item is going to be experience. This is usually the part that gives people the most problems. On a personal basis, what I have my students do is or ask them, plan for about a week, week and a half to actually do that part. Not 40 hours, meaning like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, struggling to write. Not necessarily that. But sometimes it takes a moment or two to kind of reconcile what you did or what you didn't do, and when it all kind of comes together, it just kind of comes together, on those pieces. Just have faith in the process on that. Like I said, I've done, hundreds of these. So, I mean, lots of these. So on that, and they usually come out to about the same point, in that regard. So no issues or concern. Format, they normally, I usually have people do like, what's the objective? And then go through the 5 process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitor, control, closing, on those areas, and do a brief description what you did in each of those. You really don't have a lot of words that you can play around with. So it's very binary in that regards. This is not one of those applications where like you have puffery and things of that nature, on those pieces. So, no real need to be overly concerned, about, on that side. However, you do need to be concise. You will have individuals, examiners, and they'll kind of take a look, reviewers, they'll take a look at your application. They'll glance through it fairly quickly. If they understand it, awesome. If they don't, they'll ask you a question. If they don't understand it and they ask you a question, that is an audit. Okay. So think about it this way. You want to be able to write it so that the vast majority of individuals can easily understand it, on that side. So I'm going to talk to my military DOD folks. I would avoid, a whole lot of acronyms, such as, you're the OIC that went to the JRTC and thereafter you went to the NTC, which wouldn't happen. But nevertheless, for this example, in order to go to OIF, and things like that. In other words, it might have made perfect sense to you, but had no to everybody else. They're like, well, I don't know what the guy did or gal did. So in this case, you do want to make sure that people can understand it. Another example could be I built a talk. Honestly, folks aren't going to know what a talk is. At the end of the day, it's just a construction project and move on, on those areas. So that's the way I would look at it, and the same thing on the private sector. Sometimes when you're encapsulated inside of an or large organization, you become, involved by, their walls. If you were to step outside that organization, could people understand what you did or did not do, on those pieces? After you get everything together, you upload it into the online system, hit the submit button. One or two things are going to happen. Either going to get a green light, meaning that you will be approved to take the PMP exam, or you'll get audited. There are 3 to 5% of all applications are audited. It's just number, and then the others are audited because they just simply didn't understand your project, on that case. So the in that regards, if you generally follow the processes I was just outlining, of course there's probably a little bit more details. You can reach out to me if you like, on them, just to kind of make sure. Again, when we walk through this in class, I make sure that they're all ready for the audit, on that regard. So now for me, that's never in my folks. It's never really been a big issue, in that regards. When you do finally get the green light, meaning that you can actually sign up for the exam, they'll send you a link. You'll agree upon the location. You can either do online proctor tests or at a testing center, your choice, pros and cons to both. And you'll have to negotiate a date, on those sides. After you get those pieces, you'll study, go in. I do prefer first time goes, meaning that you pass on the first time. If you don't, there's another process for that, but let's try to avoid that process by just studying really hard, understanding the material from experiential perspective, operational perspective, and an academic perspective, and just pass the first time. It'd be easier for everybody that's involved. All right, so these are just these videos. They're just meant to be short and concise, kind of to the point in that regard. Obviously, I can go on for a very long time, on any pretty much any one of these subjects. But just as a brief recap, okay, relative to the PMP exam, there's three. Excuse me, exam. Relative to the PMP application, there's three parts. The first one is going to be college education, yes or no, 4-year degree, yes or no. The second one is going to be 35 hours of project management education training, or CAPM. Okay. Again, that's fairly binary. And then the third part is going to be your experience, on those pieces. And be sure to hit all those areas and, have somebody else review it, kind of make sure that it makes sense, that you didn't use too many jargons or too many, acronyms inside of that only you know about, on those areas. And then submit and let the make sure that you study and pass the exam on that side. All right. If you enjoyed this session, I would appreciate it if you can hit the like button down at the bottom, or or hit the subscribe button. That helps us to help you. And why? Because at the end of the day, we just want you to be wildly successful in delivering your projects. Thank you, and have an awesome day.